Hello everybody, this is Rufi for ValueHeavy coaching. Been a while since my first video on this channel, and I thought that you're quite happy with all the comments that I got there, and I've seen some of you liked it, so I thought I'm gonna do another one. I'm trying to do a couple more in the future, more than just one every 6 or 7 months. I think it's been now, but yeah, let's just get into it. Today I'm playing on Blackjack Poker, which is basically like a skin of ACR. I think it's the same player pool. 10-0, 2 tables of Zoom. Let's hope we get some interesting hands in and have some interesting spots to discuss. I will, as always, try and keep the play solid. Try and keep it simple, not playing with a HUD. Always starting with a general approach and then the theoretical approach, and then maybe deviate a little bit depending on our opponent. Here we have something that I see quite a lot at lower stakes, and something you should be paying attention to when people min raise blind. We don't really want to be folding a lot. Most of our hands will just be called. We have to widen our calling range quite a lot. This spot, something that's also going to happen a lot at lower stakes, where we're going to be out of position against as in position as a preflop raiser. And if you haven't seen Peter's new video, definitely recommend to check this out. Really valuable and good insight on how to play these spots. Basically, we want to do a lot of checking as our default strategy, and this even becomes more important when we play multi-way, where our range just is up against two different ranges. So we gotta be even more passive, gotta do even more checking, and not really use any big sizing. And I think here we're just a bit too strong up to be bluffing. You can sometimes actually be win, which is quite surprising against threes, and then just a hand that didn't bluff. Could have considered bluffing maybe the turn, but I think when we check the turn, we just want to check down. So yeah, I have some players that I've played against that also apparently now show up at the lower stakes. Most likely the weaker players. So that's good to see them at the table here. And yeah, I haven't really played the 10-L obviously, but from what I've seen, the pool looks quite decent. Every table seems to have like a weaker player on it. King 5 is going to be the bottom of my opening range from the hijack. Board like this can bet quite frequently. Maybe even range if we think our opponent 3-bets quite linear with all their king queens, all their queen jacks, jacks and tens, which definitely should. And this again aboard the situation where his range, we're gonna be behind here against his range unless he calls way too many hands. A hand like king 5 with no backdoor just doesn't really do very well here, and we just gotta check fold and give up here a lot. Same here in this card, we want to be checking quite a lot here. This card helps him more than it does us. It takes away the nut advantage that we had on the flop. He's definitely going to have quite some queen X as well, even if he had like a one pair hand here. If we were betting an ace on the flop, if we're betting some king high gut shot on the flop, we're going to be checking them on the turn. Obviously now we have to continue with those most of the time, but a hand like this is just a clear fold, and it's just gonna just gonna give him a lot of straights, so it takes away our nut advantage. Not too much we can do. This is also the bottom of range. We could open this sometimes if we think our opponents are a bit too weak. See, I'm using 2x open raise from under the gun and hijack, and then a 2.3 from the cutoff and the button. This is something really interesting, something that you should be careful about in your games. When you see your opponents 3-betting to the smaller size, we just gotta defend a lot more hands. But this hand becomes quite close, and I would actually call this. Usually this is obviously a fold against a normal size 3-bet, but against such a small 3-bet, we get a pretty good price. Of course, it's not ideal with a hand like Queen 10 offsuit that's quite dominated post flop, but if he 3-bets to such a small sizing and we're in position, we just get to realize so much equity. And you know, we can still overfold a flop. That's not a problem when we call more pre-flop, but we still get to see. And now here we get a good price. We continue. We gotta be careful. We gotta keep in mind that his range is still can be quite strong, but against this small 3-bet rest, we just have the odds. Here we see a little lead on a board where he obviously shouldn't really do anything. If he had a hand that was a bit better connected, maybe like 6-5, 7-6, we could maybe consider raising. This hand is just too weak to do anything. Really, here we're gonna check behind, try and take our shot on ready, try and hit something. Don't really wanna bluff against a recreational, probably recreational because the small sizing. Ace-7 a bit too weak. Gonna open Ace-8. And here check down and maybe win something against a suited ace, something against a hand like pocket 9s, pocket 8s. And this king queen, right? He just lost a lot of value, but you know, we still had the right odds to call pre-flop. We were ahead on the flop, and then we didn't lose any money post-flop. So just poorly played by him because we got to see all 5 cards for a really cheap price, and you know, in some runouts we're gonna win and take our equity. Yeah, here same situation, right? Where if he opens to 3x, obviously king for offsuit is a fold, but against a min open, we could 3-bet sometimes, but we can also just call our king x hands. We don't really want to fold this. And here the opposite, you know, like if we had here a hand like ace deuce offsuit, a weak hand like king 9 offsuit, those can fold. Ace 5 probably still strong enough. We could also 3-bet. I think I'm actually gonna 3-bet here, 3x in position, and here I'm gonna go with a check behind. Board that's quite good for his range. We don't want to just bet every top pair when it's checked. We want to check back some strong hands as well that can continue here. Starting with a small c-bet, just more or less playing my hand here against a weaker player, just getting some protection. And then here we could check again. We could bet. Now gonna bet this hand. Also just playing fairly straightforward against probably weaker opponent that opens and has now, when he checks twice, most likely a medium strength hand like a jack, like a 10, and just trying to get value from those type of hands. Of course, we wanna be balanced, and we wanna start always with a theoretical approach, but when our opponent most likely makes some very obvious mistakes, just trying to exploit those. Let's see, get some more interesting spots. Queen 8 is a bit too weak. If you have some notes that the people in the big blind are playing too tight, they're not 3-betting enough, then Queen 8 could be open, but generally it's just a fold. And this is a hand that, heads up, you could 3-bet it sometimes, and you should definitely mix it sometimes in the 3-bet range from the big blind to have enough 3-bets. But multi-way it's mainly just a call. Maybe slimmer of a 3-bet, but it just plays really well multi-way. The reason for that being is that it is rarely dominated by other hands. You know, we don't really want to call a hand like ace-10 offsuit here and going multi-way, because on a board like this we're gonna be dominated quite often. But a hand like 6-7 is gonna, when it hits, make a strong hand, while both other ranges are most likely gonna miss. Here the king 6, we're gonna just check behind on the flop. Also a board that's pretty good for his range. We don't really want to start turning a bottom pair into a bluffy, a blindy blind, they're just gonna be checking down, trying to get to the showdown. Sometimes winning against ace highs, against hand like ace king, ace jack, other ace high hands. A 10 definitely could be in his range, that he could check on the flop, check again on the turn. So he can definitely rep a 10. If he had a hand like king jack, jack 9, I would have presumably think that he would bluff them at an earlier point in time. And now it's just not strong enough for us to go with value with the bottom pair. Okay, some neighbors are doing some work. I hope you don't hear them. Yeah, a hand like this, that's most likely what you see when people check on this board. Either some medium showdown value or just a hand that's a bit too strong to bluff. As you see, I'm opening 2.7 big blind from the small blind. This is something I'm a bit experimenting with and think works quite well. If your opponent are not adjusting their calling range in the big blind, if they're folding a bit too much, if they're not calling as wide as they should be to the smaller raise. Not something you can also just go to the normal standard 3x, but I think it works quite well. Jack 4 gonna be the bottom of my opening range here. King 6, I think it mixes some 3-bets against the button. Here, always if you use a polarized range, just be very careful when you play against a recreational or against someone who calls too much against 3-bets to not 3-bet those hands, because they're just going to be burning money. This hand as well mixes in some 3-bets. Roll a 15. I'm gonna go for it this time. I'm gonna use 13 against cutoff and the button. We represent quite a polarized range, so we wanna size up. Here goes check check. In theory, we should be checking still quite a lot. This board where he can definitely check behind some queen x, some second pair hands, and we don't really have too much going for us in this hand. I hope I can still use this recording and you don't hear the noise in the background. Quick check back. Looks like an ace high now. This run out. Don't really think I'm getting him off an ace high. I have a king in my hand, so I block a king high. Don't think that this is the ideal situation to be bluffing, so I'm just gonna give up. Maybe win once in a lifetime, but yeah, like here's a hand like this, but if we really get him to fold, I quite doubt it on such a run out, so I'm not trying to bluff in a situation like this. If I were bluffing, I would be using a pretty large sizing. But yeah, that's something that you will see a lot at lower stakes, that people are not super aware of sizings. They're gonna use both pre-flop and post-flop. They're gonna just open to min open to 3x, 3.5x, 4x. They're gonna use the wrong 3-bet sizings in and out of position, and it's just quite important to understand what this means, how we should be reacting to different sizes, because yeah, and then not make the mistake to not adjust to the sizings. So it's the bottom of the opening range. This time opened it, and now again gonna just start with a range check, especially now against two opponents. Here this hand's just gonna be folding. You could maybe do something if he goes check check. If he would use a small bet, we could maybe consider sometimes check raising, even though it would probably be better if he had like an actual raise here. But by checking here, no matter what we have, we allowed to get a bit more information, right? So we can now see what this means. What does his big bet mean in position? We get raised here. If we have a hand like ace king, now we can still continue. If we have a hand like a set, we can still continue if we have a good flush draw. But this we at least got the chance to see what they're doing. Yeah, here's deuces and then gets there magically. Quite interesting, these spots to always stay at this hand. If you play more at these stakes, definitely take a note on how this guy played pocket deuces, to not be afraid. And the other guy check raised, had a pretty strong ace. I think that's quite an okay play by him. But yeah, definitely important, or quite good to keep watching those hands to get some free information. for these bigger pots. Here pocket sevens is a bit too weak to be 3-betting. We're just gonna be folding it. King 9, I'm definitely gonna open if it folds to me. Seeing here, I mean, these short stacks generally quite a good indicator for a weaker player. This board maybe not a theoretical range bet because the 3 definitely hits the big blind better. We should be checking behind. But against weaker players, even though I have this guy marked as a bit of a sticky player, I think it still works quite well if we just go for a really small bet with most of our range. Maybe a hand like ace 8 or something that's just not strong enough to bet. Maybe a hand like trapping some top pair some of the time to let him spaz off or something. It could be an option, but with a hand that has nothing really, that doesn't mind. You get some folds. He's probably just not raising enough on this board. And if they're not really raising enough, we don't lose much. Again, this board, we're playing against 2 opponents. This board doesn't really hit him. He could defend 5s, 3s, or deuces sometimes. The big blind is definitely going to have them all the time. He's even going to have 6-4 suited that none of our 2 ranges should have. So we're just then going to start. And, if you see a small bet, he folds, we can definitely continue. If you see a big bet, a call, big bet in a race, we can fold it even now, right? Like if we had a heart in our hand, we'll probably continue. Yes, we're gonna be ahead sometimes of a flush draw, but we just cannot really continue. We have to remember, right? He bet big into 2 people, quite strong. He can have all his sets, and we're just gonna be in a world of pain on a lot of turns. And even if he hit an ace and he goes really large again, we're not really loving our spot. Of course, if we have a flush draw here, if we have ace queen with the backdoor flush draw, we got continuing. But when we're getting called against 2 people, it's just a bad starting position. That's something you have to keep in mind. These situations. Oh no, I'm folding. Yes, of course, because you play against 2 opponents. The imposition flying range should theoretically be quite strong. So funny. We have the situation again here, right? Where deuces, if he goes to 11, 12 big blinds, we have to start folding deuces sometimes and call it only at a low frequency. But against 8 big blinds, 8.5 big blinds, 9 big blinds, the pocket pairs, they're just 100 big blinds deep. We just want to call them. Oh, should maybe not have auto-folded here, but interesting. Could lead if you think, but could also just check raise. If he would have gone for a smaller bet, that's interesting actually. Could maybe do some raises, could maybe continue against a bigger bet. A bit closer, I think I'm just gonna fold against a bigger bet. On this board, I don't think it's gonna be too balanced. Maybe continue some kind of pocket force. I can pocket force, pocket 6 as a turns a bit better. Has a couple of better turns. Against a small bet, we could consider continuing or even raising with a hand like pocket deuces on a board like this. If we think he range bet, if he goes half pot, I think he's likely to play a bit of a polarized range and not just bet half pot with range. Let's get this one here. So I think he's more likely to have a hand like king jack, king queen, ace king, and not that many obvious bluff for bigger sizings. It's obviously a fine strategy as well to play that. Both hands here could open at some frequency. Let's play the suited connect and fold the other one. Both is fine. Yeah, so against this half pot, he could have ace 4 for sure, right? As bluffs, that's a bit more obvious. But just other hands, a hand like ace queen just probably goes more likely to go for smaller sizing, and so I'm just overfolding a bit against half pot, even though my hand might want to continue at some frequency. 2 times king jacks of spades. One time we hit trips. Kind of using 11 big blinds from a small blind. Could even in GTO wizard even goes to 12 big blinds. But fine. Gonna start here with a small bet on this flop. Quite an interesting board, and definitely not one where we want to range bet. The 7 and 4 hits him a bit better, somewhat connected. I think this hand definitely a fine candidate to c-bet. We could go for a check. We could go for another bet. Think against a weaker player, just like betting until I see some counter aggression from him. Getting raised here. Interesting situation. Quite a small sizing. If I had like something like an ace-5 of spades, I think I would consider re-raising here. This hand I think I just want to be calling. Because I don't want to get it in against like a hand like ace-10 of spades, ace-5 of spades, where I'm going to be dominated. And here I'm going to go for another bet. This is maybe a bit thin, but I think he can have some offsuit ace-x of hard hands. He can have some weaker jack-x hands. And because he's a weaker player, he might even call like 9s or 10s with a heart. This is super close here. I think I'm going to call another one. Again, I don't want to be raising because of the same reason. And now we're just going to be check calling the river, hoping he fires through with the occasional bluff draw. He can have some 7s, some 4s for sure. Can have some. Now he shouldn't really be bluffing with the king of spades, with the jack of spades here. I think that's quite a decent blocker that we're having here. He could have some 5-6 still that are going to be bluffing. Not an ideal spot, but I don't think we can be folding here when we hit top pair in the river at that SPR. And we hit the 7s. I think that's quite a likely hand in a situation like this. If we have some sort of read that he's only doing this with a set, maybe we can find an next fold here on the river. Definitely an interesting hand, this one. The king jack of spades. Here we get a really large 3-bet in position. Also something you see, obviously something you shouldn't really be doing. With aces, obviously we're happy about that, and we're not gonna worry too much. We're playing a bit deeper, so I'm sizing up. We're also against 9 big blinds. We're out of position. Gonna be using this sizing. I think it's gonna be fairly inelastic to this. We could even go like to 24 big blinds. But yeah, against a sizing like this one, we don't really want to play too many calls. If you have a hand like 8, 7, 6s, they're just gonna be pure folding and not mixing any calls. Same goes for a hand like, hands like ace jack suited that might call are just gonna be way more 4-bets, because this sizing is not really, just too large. Ace deuce, you can mix in some 4-bets. We're a bit deeper, so maybe this hand plays a bit better. Gonna go for 4-bet. I have for 3-bet here. Sorry, was very in position, so we can leverage the advantage a tiny bit deeper, a bit better. Gonna just start off with a small bet here. Just attacking everything that's under 10. All his pocket pairs, all his suited connectors. It's an interesting spot because you're kind of free rolling here with the flush draw. Thinking if this is a situation where we can jam because we're free rolling his other ace high hands. I'm not sure if this is a thing. I think this might work quite well where he's calling with all his ace high hands, but we're free rolling him. Yeah, in a situation like this where we can still improve, but he can't. Not 100% sure. I think his hand should just fold on the flop though. Quite a loose peel. Maybe those. You gotta check this. I'm not sure if this is a play, but I think if he calls here with every ace-x hand, and we have the ace-x hands with the flush draw, we definitely had an advantage there. A6 is usually a fold. Now if this guy for some reason marked as a pretty bad player, so I think we're gonna peel with a hand like A6 offset as well, just to be playing pots with this guy. Bigger bet on this board makes some sense. A6 too strong to do anything than call. And board super dry like this, gonna start with a min bet. We hit out 2 pair, and you continue checking, and now just trying to get the max value from a whale. Considering if you want to raise here, if you think it's more likely to spaz off with a hand here, I think I like raise quite a bit against this type of player. Just trying to get all the money in by the river. Gonna raise large here. I'm gonna be a bit polarized, or fairly polarized. He leads out here again. Maybe something we reduced with the min bet. We're pretty happy about this. We could keep calling. We could raise as well. And now I think normally this hand might be a bit too weak. 8-7 gets there. Not quite ideal. Run out. Maybe just go for block. This is a dicey spot here. Here's the hand like 9-6. It's close if you can jam. The 10 is a bit annoying. He definitely has. Let's play it like this hand here first. Gonna go for a raise here, trying to get value from weaker ace-x hands. So yeah, we could have. With the ace-6, the 10 just completes hand like ace 8-7 and like 8-7 and ace-10, which are definitely gonna be in his calling range. He's gonna have some sets here like nines, like deuces. A top pair hand might fold to a jam. Of course, hand like 9-6, most likely not. So it's close. It's close between a jam on other cards like a 3 or 4. Would have definitely went all in against the weaker player here. Here we bet half pot on the flop, continue with a larger bet on turn. The deuce completes some draws. Maybe with a hand like pocket tens, jacks, you could have also gone for an overbet. Now the question is if we still want to continue value betting. It's quite greedy if you assume this guy's a weaker player. Don't actually hate it. This might be a bit too thin. And here's a hand like 3-4 offsuit. This is in theory obviously a check back. In practice, he just sees a lot of missed draws, so he might be calling with a hand like he might just call every 9 he has again. He might call pocket pairs again, and like ace-4, ace-3, ace-deuce. Doesn't have too many 10 high flush draws that call twice, I think. So a bit greedy. I think it's okay. I think I had like 3-4. I would expect to. I mean, offsuit he shouldn't really have, but I think I would expect that hand to raise quite a bit on earlier streets on such a wet board. Yeah, I'm gonna check back. This board is it's not ideal for my range, and a hand like aces doesn't mind checking back. On a turn, could even consider checking back again. 6 is pretty good for his range. But I think he's gonna be a bit too weak in the double check line and has very often just a marginal hand. If we think we get more value from bluffing, we could also check again and then trying to get some value on the river from bluffs. Here as well, I think against this sizing, we're just gonna be pure continuing. Here we're deeper. Gonna size up. Now we're actually, I will talk about this in a second. Gonna call here, gonna 3-bet here. Here we're that deep that sizing up doesn't really work anymore because we're just too deep for it to make a difference. Could also call if we think there's a weaker player here. Now we have a dicey spot. I think we're gonna call when we're that deep, but I expect his range to be fairly strong. That deep. Price is still somewhat okay. And here we face a bigger size with the backdoor flush draw. It's close. I think it's still a fold against this big of a sizing. Could be wrong here. I'm gonna peel one with the nines. Actually though, what do we beat? We beat some forward bluffs. I think it's actually just a fold on a king high board. Just hits his range so well. And we need him to have enough forward bluffs at that stack depth. Don't really think that's happening often enough. The king high board just seems pretty bad. Okay, quite some tough spots. 9-8 with the backdoor might be a call in theory again, or a raise at some frequency. But again, he uses a bigger bet size on a board like ace 10, ace 10 6, where he could also just go for a smaller size. Very often a sign for a strong hand. I'll play those hands and sit out the next big blind. With now some interesting spots. Ace 3 can mix 3-bets or call. And again, the small 3-bet. It's amazing how often we see that. Yeah, this hand is not gonna fold against the sizing. We could mix 4-bets or calls. I think when we go smaller, generally just want to be calling more, and not necessarily 4-betting more just because it's a smaller sizing. We just want to use the better price that we're getting. And here we could mix call and raise. Board is better for him, like this queen high board, so I'm just gonna start with a call. Here we see a small sizing, very easy continue for our hand. Turn now, I think we're still calling with this ace high flush draw. It's not like it's not that snap of a call against like the button, because he can be bluffing with some ace 10, ace king sort of hands, ace jack sort of hands that we're behind. But we still beat like king jack and king 9 and jack 9 if he's opening those. Now we're just gonna be checking behind. This hand is a bit too strong to be bluffing. And pretty easy fold on that river. Yeah, and now sometimes winning against a hand like ace king, ace 10, but definitely losing as well. It's just this hand a bit too strong to bluff, a bit too. I had like this ace 5. See, that's just the problem when he goes for that small of a 3-bet size, and we just again get to see. We don't need to win that often when we get touch of pre-flop price. So yeah, just pay attention to that. Monotone connected board, we're gonna be checking back quite a bit. Hits his range quite well. We don't really have anything going for our hand. Gonna be checking back a lot also with flushes, with overpairs. And now we just don't really have anything. So these ace highs are just gonna be folding. Yeah, that was it. Let me know what you think in the comments. So quite some interesting hands. Gonna check them. Maybe post something on the Discord about the ace-x hands, where we hit the straight and the flush draw. If that was just a complete punt, or if that actually made some sense. If you have any other questions, let me know. Let me know in Discord. And yeah, good luck at the tables, everybody. I hope to see you. Bye bye.